Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind. This is episode 6, I think. Yep, episode 6. This week we're going to talk about Godzilla versus Kong. Without any further ado, unless you have something, Niles, let's hop into it. We'll do brief non-spoilers, and then we'll go into spoilers. There aren't a lot.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this film. I'm looking forward to it. My expectations for this film were kind of lowish going into it, but I want to say, by the end of it, I was definitely pleasantly surprised, and I don't know about you, but yeah, we can just go ahead and dive in. Why not?
Yeah, I guess before we talk about the movie itself, you haven't seen any of the movies leading up to this, right?
Correct. Well,
Godzilla,
disclaimer:
Kong Skull Island, and then Godzilla, King of the Monsters are the three that precede this one.
Yeah. So just a disclaimer for all of our listeners. Yeah, I think Dylan and I are definitely coming at this movie from a little bit different standings because I've only seen the first Godzilla film in this the whole series here. I haven't seen Kong Island. I haven't seen the second Godzilla. So I'm a little bit behind story wise. But Dylan, haven't you seen a little bit?
I've seen all of them actually, and I think both Godzilla movies leading up to this one are fine. I think Kong Skull Island is actually quite good, and I think the biggest failing of all of these movies except Kong Skull Island is the human side of the equation. And I know a lot of people are like, the human characters don't matter. Don't show me human characters. Just have Godzilla and King Kong fighting, or monsters fighting. And I don't agree with that, because these are movies, and they need characters with storylines to carry you through a 2-hour feature. Like, I don't know about you, but I will get bored if it's just a giant monkey and a giant lizard punching each other for 2 hours. That's great for 20 minutes, but...
if that's the entire 2-hour film of them just boxing several times.
Yeah, it's like, it's not a YouTube video, this is a movie, so you need the human element in there, which is why I think of this kaiju genre, in modern era at least, the best one is Pacific Rim. Because
and I've only seen the first Pacific Rim. I haven't seen the second one. But
don't bother. The second one's not good. But the first Pacific Rim, it's like it has all of that cool action, but the characters, while pretty paper thin, are memorable enough and they're fun. Like, and they play off of each other well. Like, the story isn't about robots punching monsters; it's about the people piloting the robots or mechs, I guess. And that's what makes it work, I think. But I guess now we could talk about the movie itself. Non-spoiler, like I said, there are not a ton of spoilers in this movie. You're pretty much, what you see is what you get, with two exceptions, I would say, towards the end, but we'll get into that later. General thoughts, what did you think?
Like I said a little bit earlier there, my expectations were definitely low going into this movie because I'm not a big monster movie guy. I haven't seen any of the original Godzillas, or I saw like the Peter Jackson King Kong, and that was pretty neat. But these movies just really aren't my jam. But I definitely was surprised by the quality of the film as it was going along. I was like, okay, this is kind of growing on me, and I enjoyed it after all. And by the end of the film, I was like, yeah, that was fun. That was a fun use of 2 hours. And if you're looking for like a movie that's just like a clobber fest of two monsters, this is it. This is just going to be two big old baddies just hitting each other around and destroying cities. And that's exactly what the movie tells you it's going to be about, and that's exactly what the movie is about too.
Yeah, I would say, regardless of overall thoughts of the movie that either of us have, like, it 100% delivers on what it promises you. It promises
absolutely
Godzilla and King Kong are going to fight each other, and they do a lot, and that's executed well. It's shot in a way that's clear and you can understand what's going on. A lot of it's during the day too, which is neat. A lot of these big fights end up happening at night, and that is, if you're less in the film bubble than we are, it's like a lot of big action scenes are shot at night because it's easier to disguise not stellar CGI when the scene is darker, and that's why a lot of movies end at night. That's part of it.
Yeah,
of course. They can cut corners a little bit more on the special effects, which is fine. These things are very expensive. But there are some big action scenes during the daytime, and they look good.
Yeah, overall, yeah, they do. They look great. The CGI, of course, there's a lot of CGI in this film because it's two gigantic monsters
Correct.
fighting each other. I think the CGI looked a lot better than the old King Kong movies and with the little stop motion animation,
motion and rear screen projection. I'd like to watch some of the old Godzilla and King Kong movies. I have not watched any of them, shamefully. The only movies about these characters I've seen are the ones of this franchise, actually, embarrassingly enough. But I would say, yet again, the weakest element of this movie is the human characters.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They're fine. Like, Millie Bobby Brown and the kid from Deadpool 2 are on their little adventure, and that's okay. And the other, like, conspiracy guy that's with him, he was kind of fun a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're like two sets of human characters in this movie, and they don't know each other, and they never interact, and it's kind of like I don't know. And there's potential for all of these characters to do interesting things, but they just don't really. They're just kind of vehicles to move Kong and Godzilla around.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar thought, without getting too far into the spoilers just yet, but when by the end of the movie, if you're following Millie Bobby Brown's character and what they're doing.
And just so you know, she is from Godzilla 2. She's in that movie.
Right.
So is Kyle Chandler, who
I figured as much.
Yeah, they're characters from the previous movie. All the characters from the Kong side are not. They're new characters.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The only carryover characters, I think, are Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that it felt like she didn't have a lot to do in this movie. It felt like she was just kind of like a vehicle to push the plot along to say, yes, break into the facility and make this discovery, like very kind of push the plot along. You don't have much to do. And even there at the end, it was just kind of like, I'm just standing here watching the final fight.
Because I can't do anything.
Have much to do.
Yeah, and that being said, she didn't have much to do, but she also had the most to do of any character in the movie. So that's
I guess that's kind of true. Yeah, because she needed to be there for helping out the ending and saving the day in a way.
I guess they do.
It's kind of hard to talk about this movie.
Yeah, it's time to talk about spoilers, I think. But I would say the movie delivers on what it promises, Kong vs. Godzilla, but it delivers on little else. Yeah. So.
I would agree. It's a good clobber fest, like we said before. But yeah, it's a little not focused on the human characters at all.
It's fun to watch though. I enjoyed it.
And it was a blast.
And we'll talk about it, I guess, more in spoilers, but it's very short, and it felt to me that there were significant portions of it that were definitely cut out, both in terms of probably entire storylines or entire scenes, but also it felt to me that certain scenes were trimmed a little too tight. Like the pacing just felt a little off to me.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I definitely felt like the first 30 minutes of the film, I had like issues with the pacing of it. It just felt like it was jumping from like one thing to the next really quickly, and it was like, here's some letters on the screen, here's like where the scene is, and then the scene lasted like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
so, like we have to jump off to this other place to establish other characters. The pacing definitely, it got better as the film went on, I would say, but yeah, I would agree that it felt like trim, like
it definitely gets more focused as it gets towards the climax. Because things start to converge, but for a while it's not very it's very jumpy, like you said.
Kind of like this podcast.
Hey, should we do spoilers?
Yeah, let's just dive into the spoiler part now.
Okay.
I guess like the biggest spoiler, we might as well just kind of get it out of the way from the get-go here, is Mecha Godzilla.
Yes, there's a evil corporate guy, as of course there is, and he wants to make his own version of Godzilla, which is, if you've seen the trailers for this movie, you see Godzilla starts attacking Monarch facilities, or actually they're not Monarch. I don't think they're
Apex,
the corporation. They start attacking those. He starts attacking those facilities, We're like, oh, Godzilla's turned on us, but he's doing that because they're trying to make a Mecha Godzilla to kill him. I'm like,
yeah, he's trying to get in there and kill it before it kills him.
Yes. So that so they want to move Kong. Okay. The plot is corporation guy recruits Alexander Skarsgård, who is this plot is like, it starts off very complicated. Corporation sort of hoodwinks Alexander Skarsgård into his scheme. He's like, we need to get to the Hollow Earth where there's this power source that we can use to defeat Godzilla or to something to protect ourselves against Godzilla. And Skarsgård is, I guess, a disgraced professor who wrote about, was it Hollow Earth?
Yeah, it was some book that he sold, like, I don't know, 30 copies of.
Yeah. And his brother went to the Hollow Earth, but died because the gravity flipped and, like, crushed them. And so Skarsgård goes to Skull Island, where he meets Rebecca Hall, I think is her name, and she's from Iron Man 3. And she is, like, Kong's caretaker and adopted a child who lived on Skull Island who had a connection with Kong, convinces them to take Kong to the entrance to the Hollow Earth and get him to go inside and follow him with the help of corporation people because they have little flying ships that can withstand gravity flipping. And then Godzilla and Kong have a rivalry. Godzilla attacks the boat. Yeah, they're on an aircraft carrier for a little while. Or no, they have an aircraft carrier escort.
It's like a whole fleet,
Yeah, they get to the Hollow Earth, go in the Hollow Earth, and then Godzilla's like, fuck you, I'm going to shoot a laser beam through the planet. And then they fight. And then Mecha Godzilla shows up. And that's pretty much the... Oh, and also there's Millie Bobby Brown and conspiracy theorist guy breaking into the corporation because something fishy's going on, which is Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah. It's a very, like, convoluted plot with lots of kind of twists. You know, I would say that as a whole, the larger plot, to me, it definitely kind of felt predictable because, you know, when you put these two big old monsters on screen, you know, Kong versus Godzilla, it's like, oh, you know, which team are you on? But of course, at the end of the film, it's like, why would either of them lose? Like, I don't see why there needs to be a definitive loser here. So,
but there
of
is.
Course they need, yeah, there is. But it's like, you know, they need to team up against like a you know, a common enemy. Yeah, thank you, common enemy. And so, you know, I feel like that side of the plot was definitely predictable for me. But you know, I think all the individual subplots and how it kind of all came together was very original and very, you know, it had some interesting moments, even if it was very, like, convoluted and kind of complex.
Yeah, I think there's potential for all of the story threads here. I don't think any of them are bad. I just think all of it is undercooked. That's the biggest criticism I can say about it. It's just, and I mean, you have 3 parallel stories going on in a movie that's an hour and 56 minutes long. Like, that's you're not going to be able to develop all of those characters and all those stories adequately for people to care. It's the same problem that, like, the Warcraft movie had several years ago. It's like that has like 7 primary characters in a sub 2-hour movie. Like, you're not going to be able to pull that off adequately. But
so there. I was just gonna make a joke that maybe this should have been, like, you know, a 4-hour film like the Snyder Cut. Then we'd have enough time to learn everything about everyone.
Because why would you edit when you could show everything? Yeah, there's a balance to be struck for sure. But like, I'm not displeased with this movie. I may be sounding overly negative, but I had fun making it. It's a good time. But the weird, like, the most glaring weird part of it is Kyle Chandler to me. He's in the movie for like 45 seconds, and I understand he's Millie Bobby Brown's character's dad, and he's in charge of Monarch. Do you even know about Monarch?
Not really. Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll explain
Give me a
them
brief
in a moment. But it's like, I feel like he probably had more to do in the script of this movie that was deemed unnecessary and cut down because it was kind of dry. But it's weird because Kyle Chandler is a pretty well-known actor and pretty talented, and he's just there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, during those opening credits, it was like just briefly it was like, oh, Lance Reddick. Like I recognized the name from The Wire, because he's a big character in The Wire, and then like he's on screen as like an army commander for like a second.
Yeah,
and it's like, what?
Yeah, is he? Which one is he? Is he the guy from John Wick?
I haven't seen John Wick, so I don't entirely know, but you'd recognize Lance Reddick if you saw him.
IMDb.
I mean, it was probably a similar.
He's the hotel, like the front desk guy at the hotel in the series. He's cool. He's an awesome character.
That's only check
he's in it for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, he's in there for like 20 seconds, kind of like, Kyler Chandler was in there for only like like 3 scenes or whatever. So yeah, I would agree that there was probably like, yeah, they had bigger roles in the script or something like that. Some of them were to do, and they just got cut out for timing.
Yeah, which I understand they're not the draw of these movies, but as we talked about earlier, characters are necessary to carry a movie to its conclusion. And also the complaint about, like, why are they showing so many humans in this Godzilla movie? From what I understand, that's every Godzilla movie. It's always mostly the human characters, and then Godzilla is doing stuff that they have to deal with. So, not making that complaint, I think.
Well, I think, it's just like, at least when I think of Godzilla movies, I think of that common trope where it's just like, the people are looking up in horror and screaming at Godzilla, like, ah! And they have to run away, and that's, the whole thing as he's wrecking destruction. So,
Yeah.
I can't speak from personal experience watching those movies, so I don't know how much people were involved in the original films, but yeah, I don't mind having, some human characters to follow, because I don't want to just follow Kong around like a CGI ape just doing his stuff.
Yeah,
for like
and Kong is more of a character than Godzilla is. Godzilla is always, in these movies, portrayed as like a force of nature who is doing what he needs to do or wants to do, and everyone around him just kind of has to deal with it. Which is why at the end of the first one, it's so funny that the headline on the news in that movie is like, Godzilla, savior of humanity, after he just obliterated San Francisco, I think, in his fight against the other monsters. But he did save the world from those monsters, but what, did 500,000 people die in that?
Yeah, seriously, those poor people.
Yeah, and I mean, even more so in this movie, like, poor Hong Kong, man. Oh my.
Yeah, that entire city got destroyed out of nowhere. Like, Kong climbs out of a hole from the earth.
Can we talk about how comedic that concept is? It's like, I saw Twitter or something, but imagine you're just a citizen of Hong Kong. You see Godzilla stomp up and just start breathing fire into the ground. And 5 minutes, a giant monkey with an axe jumps out of the hole and starts fighting.
It's like, I'm just trying to commute home. What the hell?
Yeah, it's like, I just wanted to pick up dinner, man.
And now there's an ape like swinging off buildings, and now there's a robot.
I did love there's that one shot from inside a random conference room, and you just see them fight outside, and then they crash into the conference room. That was good.
Yeah. The collateral damage is excessive, but it's appropriate for a monster movie.
Yes, and I wanted to talk about that because I'm on record in various places saying that the ending of Man of Steel is a horrifying nightmare, because it's apocalyptic, and I think I even talked about it in the last episode, and it's wrong for Superman to have been complicit in that level of destruction. I'm okay with it in this movie because it's a giant gorilla and a giant dinosaur lizard with radioactive fire breath. Neither of them are Superman, who are heroes who are supposed to be saving people, so it works differently. And also the way the destruction is presented, like, this fight's a fun romp between monsters. We aren't seeing thousands of people being lifted up into the air and slammed into the ground over and over again. Like the nightmare that is Man of Steel.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciated that in this film. They at least included a line, and we have to evacuate the city. Initiate the evacuation.
We're doing our best.
Something like that. Yeah, it's like, and you get to see some people like running out of the city, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Good to get those people out of there.
Yeah.
very unlike Man of Steel.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for viewers and I guess upcoming filmmakers in the effect of tone and presentation on your story, because this movie is a fun monster movie, so they're not going to show you the poor civilians getting crushed by Godzilla throwing King Kong into a skyscraper, because that's not fun. That's horrifying. But in Man of Steel, Superman, one of the most like characteristically optimistic superheroes, is just being thrown through skyscrapers as people die by the thousand.
Yeah, he's just having a punch fest in the air.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what are you doing?
Right, and it's an interesting comparison to make. If you're making movies, understand what your subject matter is and how best to present it. Do you want to talk about Mechagodzilla and how the great team up of the century?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Mechagodzilla. I feel like Mechagodzilla is kind of like like an icon of the Godzilla movies.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of I guess when you think of Godzilla, you think of a lot of different monsters, but Mechagodzilla for me it comes to mind.
Most of the other Godzilla monsters died in the last movie. I think it was like Man and Mothra and another one, I think, and King
the
Ghidorah.
Hydra head thing.
Yeah, King Ghidorah, which was the skull in this one, with one of his heads, and they're all dead. Mothra is good. Mothra died. That was actually kind of sad in the last one, or good in the sense that Godzilla is good, less destructive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I mean, if there was a right time to use Mechagodzilla, I think in the MonsterVerse, whenever they're going to expand and make another movie or whatever, this was the right time to do it, because you want these two characters to team up against a common enemy in the end and kind of have that mutual respect and walk off into the sunset and say, whatever, you can be a Titan, I can be a Titan, whatever, that's fine. But I think it was the right kind of move for this movie, I think, to have that be the common enemy for the two of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think about Mechagodzilla?
I think it was hilarious and good. I think the concept of Mechagodzilla is completely ridiculous, but I love it in this movie. And I like I said, I haven't seen the old Japanese Godzilla movies, and that's
right. Me too.
A little irresponsible of me to talk about Godzilla too much without having seen those, but in this franchise, I think it works as a glorious schlock fest, and it allows Godzilla and King Kong to just go from enemies to being like, we're gonna beat the shit out of this thing together, and it's
of course,
and they help each other out. It's like an Avengers moment where Godzilla charges up Kong's axe so he can just
he's like, shoot me up, dude.
Yeah, it's like when Thor charges Iron Man's armor with the lightning. It's the same energy.
Yeah, it was definitely a satisfying team up for the ending, because it's like, oh, you get to use his ability, and they're kind of pulling them apart and working as a team, which it was kind of neat to see. And the whole Mechagodzilla, the idea of Mechagodzilla is absurd.
Yes.
It's like where was Mechagodzilla when the Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal? Man, that would have been so helpful.
I know.
Just pick up the
just
boat.
Give it a little tap.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's like one of those those big I'm blanking on the show, but I feel like it's just a staple of Japanese culture, those big mechs or whatever.
Yeah, it's a whole genre of mecha anime.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Thank you. I'm dishonoring the genre because I don't understand it, but
Yeah, my experience with anime is small.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we're kind of in a similar boat. Yeah,
we watched Death Note together, and that's I think the only anime I've watched in its entirety so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely shows that I've watched that have anime styles, like Castlevania.
Yeah, that's true.
Other ones I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, but I didn't get too much into it.
Yeah, I don't even know what classifies something as an anime versus just an anime art style show. But I guess
Welcome
maybe
to the
based
podcast.
on a manga comic. I don't know, honestly. I have nothing against anime. I just haven't gotten into it.
Right. Yeah, everyone's got their own styles and preferences. But yeah, I mean, Mechagodzilla, that was I don't know, I'm torn on Apex like as like a piece of the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
because it just kind of seems like they're just the big bad, evil corporation.
The stereotypical evil corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
Which probably more reflective of reality than we'd like, but that's okay. It's not okay.
I mean, I did appreciate like all the kind of like conspiracy stuff that he was talking about with like the underground mag lift and the tap water thing. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And, like, see that kind of technology was neat too. To be like, oh, that would be so incredible if we could just go 800 miles per hour and get to the other side of the world.
I did love the element of it, like, because he is a conspiracy podcast where he works for the company and he's uncovering all this information. And I think it's hilarious because in the 21st century, they would have figured out who this guy is easily.
Yeah.
And they just don't. They don't. They never figure out who he is until he basically comes face to face with the CEO. I also loved that every character who figured out about Mechagodzilla talked to the CEO and was like, "What are you doing? This is a terrible idea." And immediately after powering up Mechagodzilla for the first real time, he becomes self-aware and kills the CEO and fries the pilot who's supposed to be controlling him.
It's like, wow, who could have seen that coming?
It's like the most instant karma thing that could have happened.
Yeah, right. And everyone was like, yeah, we don't understand his power. Don't fuck with it yet.
Yeah, the pilot's like, dude, we haven't done any tests. It's like, we're doing it now. Like, Godzilla will come for us as soon as we turn this on. I don't care.
Do it now.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Mechagodzilla is a fine villain to throw into the mix here, and for the common enemy. Like
he's effective in his minimal role. One thing I thought was hilarious, and I think speaks to the chopping up of the movie, is when Kong and Godzilla are fighting, and Godzilla kicks Kong's ass. By the way, not at first. I liked the element that in the first fight, Godzilla has the advantage in the water because Kong is a monkey or an ape, or whatever he is. I don't know.
He's an ape. Yeah.
Okay. And then when they're on land, initially Kong has the advantage. He loses it at some point. The fight takes a turn, but they're fighting at night, and it's like the dead of night. And then as soon as Mechagodzilla emerges, it looks like it's the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So it's just a little editing thing. Something was cut out. But I enjoyed that the fight was in the daytime for that bit, so we could see more.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped out with just the visuals. And,
the visuals hold up under the more consistent light. Like, nothing looked bad.
Yeah. And I mean, it's got like kind of a small metaphorical aspect to it where it's like, oh, the sun's rising on a new day as we beat Mechagodzilla. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice, I guess. Yeah. New day, whatever.
Yes.
I do want to talk about the Hollow Earth.
The Hollow Earth, yeah, the most interesting element of this movie, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That was just aesthetically so cool, and the concept that the gravity flips halfway through.
Neat. Yeah, that was super neat, and like how there's like, there's like Earth right there, and then there's Earth right here, and you can just kind of jump and get to the other part. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
It was really neat.
Yeah.
Wish we spent
arguably
there, honestly. I wish the focus of the movie was in that area, almost.
Well, yeah, it would have been so cool if like Godzilla, like when he blasted down that hole to the Hollow Earth, that he just jumped down there, like came down there to fight in Hollow Earth. But I also enjoy the good city mashup.
Yeah, I think they probably wanted that comparison in scale to have. One thing, I guess I'll get to that after the Hollow Earth, but that and Monarch. Monarch runs through all of these movies. They're kind of the organization that is keeping track of all the monsters, investigating them, looking into the Hollow Earth. And like Ken Watanabe, who's in both Godzilla movies, he dies in the second one, I think. They have to like ignite a nuke or something to help Godzilla revive himself because he gets really hurt. And in typical movie fashion, I think they have to manually activate the nuke. So Ken Watanabe is like, I will do it because Godzilla is my friend.
Oh.
He sacrifices himself to help Godzilla. which is a shame. He's a great actor who they lost because they killed him off.
Yeah.
But the Monarch is just kind of like around doing stuff in the Godzilla movies, but it's the most fun in Kong Skull Island because it starts off, it's John Goodman is the founder of Monarch, and he's treated as like this crazy conspiracy guy because he believes in all this Hollow Earth stuff, and he gets a lead to go to Skull Island, which is where the whole Kong movie takes place, and he recruits like a team that includes Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and Samuel L. Jackson, and Toby Kebbell, and they're like, Sam Jackson and Toby Kebbell are part of like a military squad on their way back home from Vietnam. And Brie Larson is a scientist, I think, and Tom Hiddleston is just like a mercenary gun for hire who knows survival or something. And they go and they start trying to like, the conflict with Kong starts in that movie because they're just dropping bombs all over Skull Island to send out shockwaves to map the island so they can prove the Hollow Earth. And that's where Monarch starts. And at the end of that movie, like, Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston get recruited by Monarch to go investigate other monsters and stuff like that. And they're not particularly deep characters, but I was like, I would watch a Monarch show with Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston just going and investigating different cool places and monsters each week. Like,
that'd be cool.
Max show. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, you could explore all different kinds of monsters for sure. That'll be a neat thing, or even just like like a small little mini series of like 6 episodes.
Yeah, something
that'll be neat.
Just something like more stories that take place in this universe, because like Pacific Rim, just having a universe where giant monsters just kind of stomp around and occasionally walk through a city. Yeah, it's kind of it's a cool idea for world building. You can do a lot of fun stuff with that. But one thing I thought was interesting about Skull Island is in this movie, like Kong's in a little habitat and there's just a storm on the island. And the one line makes it seem like, because Rebecca Hall says like, oh yeah, before the storm came, which makes me think it's always there. And like, I wonder what happened. Why is there a permanent storm over Skull Island now? That's intriguing.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't catch that line. Huh. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to explore. Yeah, and like a miniseries, Brie Larson or something. Yeah, that would be neat.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hollow Earth was definitely the most interesting part to me. And so, yeah, thanks for the background on Monarch. That kind of brings it together a little bit more cohesively between the movies and stuff. And yeah, the one thing that I wish that they did with this movie was spend more time there. Like, I think, that should have been like a bigger part of the film, is them just kind of exploring that world.
Yeah.
But maybe that's, down the line, if they wanted to do that series with Brie Larson and Tom, they could do that.
Loki.
Loki and Captain Marvel and Loki exploring the Hollow Earth,
Yeah,
that would be neat.
And we get some hints at Kong's ancestry or culture from the Hollow Earth stuff, because they have that like amphitheater with a throne and the Godzilla spine axe that they find there.
Oh yeah,
because I think the blade of the axe is meant to be a Godzilla spine.
That would make a lot more sense. I was just kind of like,
where
did that come from?
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
I do love that he comes across those two flying monsters and just kicks the shit out of them.
Yeah.
A great time.
Well, I just love how they introduced them too. It was like, the guy on the radio was like, oh, we're picking up something on the radio. We're going to circle back, and then
boom.
Just blows up.
Immediately dead.
Like really? Wow, shit. You didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I enjoyed the bond that Kong had with the little girl, and communicate through sign language. That was really sweet. But I mean, there's not a ton to say about this movie. I don't think. It's very simple. It's fun. Oh wait, there was that thing that I was going to talk about that I said I'd talk about after Hall. What was it?
We're just looking at our notes here.
It's in the notes somewhere. We talked about the editing, human character. No. Never mind. I think I talked about it and forgot what it was.
Well, I guess here's something that we could talk about is the size of Godzilla and Kong.
That was it. That was the thing. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I feel like it fluctuated throughout the movie. I don't know if I'm right on that, but like when they're fighting on the ships, I feel like they are smaller than when they're fighting in the city. Maybe I'm just underestimating how large those ships are, but the fact that Godzilla could stand on an aircraft carrier and then he's also as tall as a skyscraper. And in the second Godzilla movies, I think he's bigger. I think he towers above most buildings, so it is distracting to me to whether or not it's true. It felt like their size changed several times throughout the movie.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with that, and I do think, I do remember seeing like a graphic of like how big he was in like Skull Island compared to this one, and I think they did make him a little bit bigger.
And that's why, like, he was said to be younger in Skull Island, so he would get bigger over time. Because Skull Island takes place in the 70s, so
okay, yeah,
there's a lot of atmosphere to that movie too.
Yeah, so he has time to grow and stuff. But yeah, I would agree. Especially like on the boat, it's like both these gigantic monsters, these titans that are as tall as skyscrapers, are standing on one aircraft carrier together, and it's not sinking.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and also just the weight. Like when Kong is laid down, distribution of weight.
Yeah.
He can, when he's laying down, fine. When they're standing, though, like wouldn't their weight kind of split the ship in half or something?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes the physics of it just didn't make sense. Where it's like, oh yeah, and then he flipped the boat because he was climbing on top of it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what?
Wouldn't he? But yeah, and I think we both understand this is a very nitpicky thing for a dumb monster movie, but it's not that big of a deal, but it is kind of funny and a little distracting. I'm like, this shouldn't work. He should be crushing them all.
Yeah,
I did like that he made the effort to flip the boat back. Like that was nice.
Yeah, that was a good way to make sure no one drowned and all the characters stayed alive. But I mean, yeah, but I think the size did fluctuate, and it was kind of apparent with like the scenes with the little girl too, because she's so small, and it feels like his thumb is like huge.
Yeah.
It's like she touches it. It's like, but I don't know, just like the size ratio there kind of. I mean, I guess it works, but it doesn't entirely make sense when you put it, juxtapose it with like him fighting on the battleship and like in the city. It's like, something.
And ultimately, it's fine. It doesn't
doesn't
ruin the movie or anything like that. But it's noticeable, so it's worth listening.
It's a little noticeable, and if we have to complain about something in this movie, that's like one of the smaller things.
Yeah, and I do think it's funny that he is able to. Kong must have great eyesight because he's able to sign with what would be the equivalent of a bug.
Yeah. There's that one scene where it's like after the first fight with Godzilla, he's like laying out on the boat, like trying to catch his breath, and he like locks eyes with her. She's up in the control area of the ship. It's like, what the hell? How is he signing language with her from that distance? Or like, how is he understanding it? Like, there's no way.
No.
But
which it's whatever.
Whatever. And I did appreciate that part in the film where it's like, oh yes, he communicated the sign language at home thing.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly at that moment I did audibly gasp because I was like, oh, whoa, like that's such a neat thing to happen in like primates and apes. Is like, whoa, they can understand language and they can communicate with us. So it's like, oh, that's kind of neat, So I appreciated that part. I really did.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton else to say. I'd recommend this for people.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. It's a good shortish movie to just hang out and watch. And it's
I guess
if you have HBO Max, it's free. Just
Yeah, I'd say if you got like 2 hours to kill and you want to watch a fun movie where it's just two monsters hitting each other, this is check this movie out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if you're vaccinated and feel safe in your area, it is in theaters as well. This is the type of movie that would benefit from being seen on a big screen. So if it's an option for you, it's possible now. The world.
Yeah, I was absolutely thinking that. Yeah, I was absolutely thinking that while we were watching the film. I was like, well, that would be neat to see this like full screen in a theater, surround sound, totally black, like no distractions. Like that would be a neat experience for sure. I think the at home version of this film is like yeah, it takes you a little bit out of it.
It's not the best way to watch it because, this movie is meant to be full spectacle, and you lose an element of that when you're at home.
Yeah.
But, it's the world we live in for now.
Mm-hmm. I guess I got one question here is just, we've had, what is this now? So there's
4.
2 Godzilla movies, and now I guess 1 King Kong. So 4, yeah, we're up to 4. 4 movies for the MonsterVerse. What do you think is the future of the MonsterVerse? Is there a future?
Yeah, that's actually interesting because the director of this movie was asked, because there's a post-credit scene in Kong Skull Island, which is Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston getting recruited to Monarch, which is a thread that has yet to be delivered on. I don't think most people actually are interested in that. I am, but
yeah.
I don't remember if the Godzilla movies had post-credit scenes or not. But
I don't remember.
The director was asked why this movie didn't have one, and he said they actually shot one, but ended up just putting it in the movie because it fit better there. And people seem to think that's the Kong habitat bit at the end in the Hollow Earth. I don't really know. He didn't specify, but he was asked, like, will there be a sequel or anything? And he was like, we'll see. If people like this and want more, we'll explore that option. But they preferred the approach of just telling this story and seeing how audiences responded and what they liked and what they would like to see more of, which is kind of rare for a franchise approach these days. So who knows? I think at this point you do have to start fleshing out your human characters a little more to continue this, because I think we've seen about all we can see of the monsters fighting each other. I don't know how much there is to surprise us anymore after these 4 movies. So I think, in my opinion, the most interesting thing would be a Monarch show set in the 80s of like Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson. I think that's the most fun thing you could have. I know the 80s are kind of played out at this point for nostalgia reasons, but like, put Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston in some Magnum PI attire and have them go around the world in exotic locations, like investigating monster sightings and doing stuff. Like, why not? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be neat.
I feel like this is a culmination, so I don't know where you go from here. It's like the Avengers, where you have a wealth of characters that you can continue to flesh out and move new ones into the spotlight. It's Godzilla and Kong, and we've seen them do their thing.
I would say that's a really good point to make, because this it feels like it's definitely built a lot better than the DC universe.
It's more cohesive.
Yeah, it's more cohesive. They have fewer characters to play with here for sure. Just Godzilla and Kong. But yeah, the future of this is I don't even know where they would go next. And I think you brought up a good point where it's studio execs, they need to know when the universe is dead, when they can't take it any further. They say this is as far as we can take it. We can't take it any further. So maybe this is that point. Maybe it's
which
not.
is totally fine. Like, franchises don't need to go forever. I feel like people always seem to think like, oh, the franchise died. No, it could have just ended. Like, it built to the confrontation between Kong and Godzilla, and we got that. So unless you shift focus a little bit to something else, I don't know where you go from here.
Yeah, I'm like trying to remember if there's like any other massive monster movies from like the past decades, and where else they could explore. What are the monsters they can pull into the universe? And I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, King Kong and Godzilla are the big ones.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. In the first Godzilla, they didn't even have the rights to the other classic Godzilla monsters, which is he fights those Muto things. They made those up for that movie. And then in the second one, they got the rights to use Rodan and Mothra, and I don't know if King Ghidorah is one of them or not. Maybe.
I think he is.
But they got the rights to use those for that, which is why they're all there.
Yeah.
So, but I think Pacific Rim is a great case study in what happens when you take a franchise like this too far. Like, Pacific Rim did not need a sequel. They finished the story in that. They the breach, they defeated the monsters. It was like the day is saved, yay. And then in the second one, they had to invent reasons for it to come back. And like they make spoilers for Pacific Rim too, but you've seen the first one, right?
I've seen the first one, yeah.
You remember Charlie Day's character, how he was like this underdog scientist guy who was really fun?
Of course I remember Charlie Day.
He's the villain of the second one.
That's
he gets like his brain. He melds with a kaiju brain and like conspires to make kaiju mechs who open up the breach, and then the movie ends with him getting arrested and put in jail. And Mako, you remember Mako, one of the main characters, she dies in a helicopter crash at the end of the first act of the second one.
Oh.
And
yeah, I don't really remember her character, but she's
the Asian girl, like the one of the main leads. It's like Charlie and her, they pilot the thing together, and he's not even in the movie. It was like the studio didn't want to wait for Guillermo del Toro to be available, and they didn't want to wait for Charlie Hunnam to be available, so they just shat out that movie. They got John Boyega, who's a very charismatic lead, and he's supposed to be Idris Elba's character's son, but estranged son, and Scott Eastwood's in there, but I don't know, it's just hollow. It's not.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. That feels like it's missing a lot of characters that they need for like a successful transition.
Yeah, and it started out vaguely interesting because it was like, what does this Jaeger program do when there are no monsters to fight? So they just kind of like patrol around the Pacific, not doing much. But as soon as the plot gets started, I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cautionary tale. You don't need every series to continue on. Just end it. Quit while you're ahead. Someone honk.
Sorry, there was a car alarm going off in my outside.
But yeah, do you have any other like closing thoughts on Godzilla versus Kong?
No, not really. I mean, it's a good film at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for something that's like, fun to watch and you're gonna enjoy every second of it, say this is a good movie, just do that. Yeah, you might have some problems with some of the characters, but there's some funny moments in there, and I mean, with the conspiracy theorist guy, that was kind of neat to like see that actually like be portrayed more on screen, because I feel like sometimes movie execs don't really want to focus on conspiracy theories or include that kind of stuff into films, so it's kind of nice that they were
in today's day and age they are a little less fun, in fairness.
Yeah,
they have caused some real damage specifically. But
yeah,
this was the fun flavor of conspiracy theory, where it's just
of course,
a harmless guy who's right, not a dangerous conspiracy that tries to overthrow the government. And
exactly
that happened. Don't forget about that.
Never forget that one.
Please don't.
That was a big part of history.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I would probably watch, whatever, if they wanted to expand this universe, I would definitely probably.
Yeah.
I would watch the next film, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I would be rooting for that kind of series about Monarch. That would be a neat thing to watch.
Yeah.
And just kind of explore. Yeah, I would. If there was anything that I'd want them to see, or that I want them to do next with this universe, is to explore the Hollow Earth aspect.
That's the most interesting element that they've presented, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciated, Journey to the Center of the Earth when I was younger. That was a fun kind of movie to watch with Brendan Fraser. So, I mean, if they can do something similar where it's just like cool adventures in the Hollow Earth, with King Kong or something like that, I would watch that. That sounds like a fun time.
And that was part of the appeal of Skull Island too. Was Skull Island in itself was kind of a character that had a lot of dangerous monsters on it and unique environmental hazards they had to deal with. I'm guessing the Hollow Earth is that exponentially. So focus on that more. I agree with everything. It's a fun movie. There's not much to it. It didn't say there was much to it. Check it out. Why not? I have.
Yeah.
Totally. So with that, let's transition over a little bit. What else have you been watching?
Yes, I do have a few things to talk about.
Wow.
Here. First and foremost was a show that I just discovered, and I wish I discovered it like 2 weeks ago for the Snyderverse episode that we recorded, because it would have been the perfect thing to plug for that week. But it is this show called Invincible.
Yeah, on Amazon, right?
on Amazon. Yes,
It's supposed to be good.
It is awesome. It is an adult, animation style of just like a Justice League universe. It's based on some comics
from Image Comics, I think, right?
Yeah, something like that. I haven't read the comics myself, but this show is just like so phenomenal. It's kind of like if the boys met Justice League.
Love it.
It's a nice parody. It's it's violent. It's got some violence. It's got some gore in it. But it's kind of like a coming of age tale where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's getting his superpowers, and his dad is basically Superman. Yeah. And it's got like some great voice actors in there, like Stephen Yeun,
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons is in there, and a whole bunch of different people. It's phenomenal so far. If you're not burnt out on superheroes just yet, I would recommend checking this out.
I've been meaning to check
violent.
It out.
It's violent. It's a little graphic, but it's it's really fun. I found it like just a few days ago, and I just watched like all the episodes.
Yeah,
like, it's still coming out.
I've been meaning to sit down and watch it. I just haven't had the time. I've heard funny stories of people because the trailer for it is very lighthearted, and it's the dad and the son playing catch around the planet together. Apparently, people sat down with their kids to watch it, and were just like, "No, no, no, no."
Yeah, yeah. The first episode. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but the first episode ends on kind of a grim, bloody note. Yeah. So, yeah, I would recommend checking that out. That's been a big part of my watch list lately. Yeah, there's another movie that I just watched really recently called The One That I Love, or The One I Love. It came out in 2014, and it's a really interesting movie. It's got Mark Duplass in it and Elizabeth Moss. And Ted Danson is also in it for a little bit. But it's basically just about this troubled couple, and they decide to take a vacation to a beautiful, getaway, like this, wherever. I don't remember exactly where it is, but they have like this whole weekend just to themselves on this big, massive property. But then it's really interesting because they go into this one guest house, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's like another version of them.
Oh.
So it's kind of like, that whole 80s trope of like, which one's the real one? Of like, shoot me, not that, or shoot her. She's not the real one. I'm the real me.
Okay, yeah.
That kind of whole stuff. And it's like, it explores, like, the struggles of relationships and like, how we kind of romanticize each other. It's just really phenomenal. And they both did like such amazing jobs portraying, these characters. Like, props off to them. Mark Duplass is just incredible, and so is Elizabeth Moss. So I'd recommend checking out this movie. It's on Netflix, yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a good one to check out. I think it won some awards. I'm not quite sure. And last episode that we recorded, I forgot to mention, I watched Mad Max finally, Fury Road.
Oh, you never seen it before?
No, I'd never seen Fury Road before.
Oh my god!
Finally sat down and watched it.
Isn't that movie the coolest shit?
Yes. Oh my goodness, it was so fun.
Have you seen the old Mad Max movies?
I saw the original Mad Max, like the first one. I didn't see any of the other ones, but I was kind of disappointed in that film, honestly.
Yeah, the first one I've heard is odd because it's not it doesn't have that post-apocalyptic aesthetic. I think it's the Road Warrior that is the most revered of the old ones, but I have heard from people who were fans of the old ones that Fury Road just is the one. Like the rest of them aren't really that critical anymore. It is like after Fury Road.
Yeah, the original Mad Max. I was definitely disappointed in it. He's not even mad in that movie. Nothing goes on really. It's just kind of like before the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, why am I watching this film? But Mad Max Fury Road, man. If you have not watched this show, this movie. It's
amazing.
Check it out.
I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture the year it came out.
Yeah, all around amazing.
You know that movie didn't have a screenplay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they had storyboards, and that was what they used as a script because there's so little dialogue in it, and the storytelling is just almost all visual. It's been talked about how you can track the relationship between Max and Furiosa with how they treat guns between each other and how much they because there's initially Max takes all the guns, he's hoarding them, and then towards
Yeah.
like he can't make the shot, and he gives the sniper rifle to Furiosa, and she props it on his shoulder, and it's like their entire their like growing bond is symbolized with how they hand each other weaponry throughout the movie, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's a good catch. I didn't really pull that one out,
but it's. I mean, the visual storytelling is just so strong in that movie.
Yeah, and it's just just breathtaking. Like every shot is just so interesting, and like I was not bored at all throughout that movie, and I was like, yes, I just want to know what happens next. Keep going, keep going. Like
it's one of the best genre movies of the decade for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
highly recommend.
Nicholas Holt's character Nux has a great arc in it. Amazing the amount of character work that movie has with so little words.
Yeah, they're able to just communicate visually, and it's just a knockout. And I mean, by the end of the film, it's like, okay, yeah, we killed a lot of bad guys, and kind of order has been restored, and there's hope and stuff. But like, I was sat there for a second. I was like, so nothing really changed a whole lot, but a lot changed at the same time.
Yeah, the people who hold the power are compassionate now. And
exactly. Yeah,
in that prosperity, and I do think it's interesting that. I mean, spoilers, but Mad Max Fury Road came out 7 years ago, so I think it's fine. Like Max doesn't stay with them. He's, I guess in his mind, he is a person of the wasteland. He's taken too far at this point, so he stays down and goes away. Eventually, we may get a sequel to that. They're working on a Furiosa prequel with Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa.
I'm into that. That's cool.
Yeah. Because Furiosa is really the main character of the movie, not Max. Max is the window.
Max is just the...
Which is apparently the case for every Mad Max movie. It's another one of those things where the, internet loser brigade was like, this movie's all about the SJWs taking over Mad Max. It's about a woman and not Max. And everybody who knows anything is like, that's every Mad Max movie, you imbecile.
If I remember right, the original Mad Max was he's focused on his family.
Yeah, because his daughter and wife get killed at the beginning, and he's out for revenge. But
I don't really remember.
But those people will complain about everything.
Yeah, and the only other real thing that I've been watching lately has been Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's been a good start off. I haven't watched the most recent episode. I'm gonna catch up on that today.
Oh, it's a good one. It's
been phenomenal so far, and I've been really enjoying it. And it's a nice change of pace from WandaVision. It's entirely different, and just a good show to check out.
Yeah, I expected I would enjoy Falcon and Winter Soldier because I enjoy all of Marvel's stuff, but I did not expect it to be as interesting as it is. It's impressed me. Episode 3 especially. After this episode, Zemo has gone from a okay villain in Civil War to an extremely interesting character.
Oh, excellent.
I'm excited for you to watch this new episode. It's very fun. And the location they go to in this episode, no spoilers for it, but it's called Mandrapore, I think, and apparently it is most notable for being an X-Men related location. So they're dropping seeds for that, because we all know that's coming down the road at some point. But it's a lot of good action in this show. I think seeing the lives of Bucky and Sam are both pretty interesting stories.
Yeah.
And when the series is done, we'll do an episode on it. I think that'll be.
Oh yeah. You bet your ass we'll do an episode on it.
Yeah. So in terms of what I've been watching, that's pretty much all I watched in the last 2 weeks. Sadly, I haven't watched a ton. Just been reading still, but
good.
I did read not a very fun article, but it was an hour-long read, and it is I can link in the description, I guess, if anybody wants to read it. But it's an article talking about how sort of alt-right politics and talking points has seeped its way into online media criticism, sort of culminating in the response to The Last Jedi and ultimately the film Rise of Skywalker. Oh. It goes back and it cites data, and they studied they analyzed Twitter responses and just various news outlets and who is making this content, and basically how the narrative of the divisiveness of The Last Jedi formed, and how it was really less divisive than the narrative suggests. And it basically, like, it goes through how this started in the 80s with Rush Limbaugh, and sort of it from what he started, like Fox News developed, and then you have your reactionaries like a Ben Shapiro who start talking about movies, and then you have like Hitler apologists like the Quartering coming in and basically spewing out content, like video after video, about how this movie sucks and how Kathleen Kennedy is out to ruin men or something, and how Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy are trying to feminize Star Wars and ruining it. And it's just like saturating the internet with this content to where the narrative becomes so politicized on these movies. And it basically, the article was like how the alt-right attacked The Last Jedi, or the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and won. Because The Rise of Skywalker, in a lot of ways, addresses a lot of the problems these people had with The Last Jedi. And in my opinion, makes it a worse movie for it. But, yeah.
That's really interesting. I'd love to read that.
Yeah, it's a long read, but it basically breaks out how a lot of these complaints are just powered by a small handful of people who just spew these hashtags over and over again on Twitter, and then the like mainstream and the studio execs like don't fully understand how all of this online stuff works, so they attribute like Solo's box office failure to reaction to The Last Jedi, when that probably was less of a factor than people believe it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I love The Last Jedi, and I almost didn't see Solo because I didn't care. I don't know if you remember this, but we were roommates at the time, and it was just like, the movie came out, and it was Thursday night, and I only went because I didn't have anything else to do. Like, for me, for a Star Wars movie, I buy tickets to those months in advance for all our friends to go see them together, and I just didn't do it for that one. And I like that movie a lot. Ultimately, I'm like, holy shit, that was actually really fun. But the article is worth reading, and I think if you are someone who kind of exists in this online media space, it is your responsibility to understand when forces outside of it are influencing it. Like Steve Bannon. He was a big part of that, because a lot of the people who whine about feminism and diversity in The Last Jedi rose to prominence in Gamergate. You remember Gamergate from? It was.
No, I don't.
Oh, it was this whole.
Fortunately,
it was this whole thing a while back, but it was like all these people started criticizing Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn for, like, an ex-boyfriend of Zoe Quinn, who was a game developer, like, said, I think that a reviewer at Kotaku gave her game a positive review because they were in a relationship with each other at the time, and that resulted in a lot of these people just harassing her under the guise of ethics in game journalism, but really they're making sexist attacks and complaints at her, and that was stoked by Steve Bannon and Milo Yiannopoulos of Breitbart. They jumped on board that. So it's like the alt-right weaponized anger in these like gamer spaces to start seeping their politics in, and slowly over the course of the last decade have allowed or have gotten their talking points into all of these people. So it disseminates down from Rush Limbaugh to Fox News to Steve Bannon to Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos to just YouTube people.
Yeah.
All under the guise of media criticism, when they're really just complaining about diversity. And they use like dog whistles to kind of hide what they're doing, but not totally. It's really upsetting because it's had a measurable impact. It affected the writing of one of the world's biggest franchises from one of the world's largest media companies. Like, that's not good.
Yeah, that's really upsetting, and I mean, that's a great point to bring up too. Yeah, about, like, you know, if you have if you are in like the entertainment industry, or interested in it, or you even have a voice in it, it is important to know where the information is coming from, and you know, where these hashtags are spawning, where all this kind of why people are up in arms about certain things.
And
that's a good point to bring up.
And it's hard to keep track of because some people disguise their feelings pretty well. But whenever someone starts complaining about politics in a movie, be a little skeptical. Like, look and see what else they say, because I'm sorry, but Star Wars The Force Awakens specifically is like the least political Star Wars movie. Every political element in it existed in the old films. The only political thing is like kind of the visually Nazi coded bad guys, which has always been there. The prequels are far more political by a long shot. So are the originals. George Lucas considered Return of the Jedi his Vietnam allegory. Were the Empire or the Ewoks his allegory for America? The Empire, who he had visually coded as Nazis. That's a pretty big political statement. You just might not remember how big Vietnam was in the political discussion when that movie was made because you were a baby. The only thing political about The Force Awakens is that they had a diverse cast, and they cast most of those characters without specifying race. So you're lying if you think that movie is political. It's not.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi is a little bit, but who cares? Everything is political. Art's political. It's in the nature of the medium.
Well, and I'm it's always nice to just see franchises switch it up and try new things. And, they definitely tried that with The Last Jedi.
They did.
Hey, we're gonna. The last movie was a soft reboot. Let's do something completely different, completely kind of original. And I applauded them for that. And, if I have to say which one is my favorite out of like the newer films, I'd probably say either The Last Jedi or Force Awakens. But that's.
And I can understand, like, there are people who dislike The Last Jedi who are not closeted bigots.
Totally.
Respect that. It's a movie that, it takes a lot of chances, specifically with Luke Skywalker. If that doesn't work for you, I get it. But be aware of the people in your midst who are trying to weaponize you for their political gain, because that's what they're doing. Bannon has said as much. He recognizes that this online space is a weapon he can use, and he has been using you for years. It's worked very well. So I'll put the article in the description. I'll send it to you too if you want to read it.
Yeah, please do. That'll be.
It takes a long time. I wasn't exaggerating when I said it takes an hour to read it. But yeah, that's not a fun way to end the episode, but it's important, So
it is, yeah. And I guess just to kind of put it in some context there, with those people, clearly, there's like a problem with misinformation and, the trickle down effect of how, those alt-right views have like sneaked their way into online media criticism. But, at least with us, with Play Pause Be Rind, exactly where your news is coming from about movies is coming from two guys who are just passionate about movies and passionate about entertainment. And, we'll just try and look at the optimistic side of things.
And I also wear my politics very on my sleeve. So we're not going to deceive you with where we stand if a serious political issue comes up. Like, it should be very clear, especially if you follow me on Twitter, you know exactly where I stand.
Well, Dylan, where can people follow you at?
People can follow me on Twitter at D-Day Movies and on Instagram at DylanD1026. I also have a YouTube channel called D-Day Movies. Impossible to find by searching on YouTube itself because D-Day was you may have heard of it. It was a pretty significant historical event. So, whoopsies. I really screwed myself on SEO there. But you can find that through my Twitter or Instagram pretty easily. Niles, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram right now at Niles Got No Styles. That's what I think it's Z. I'll have to check that.
I think it is. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, you guys can feel free to follow us or follow this podcast as well. We really appreciate all of our listeners and anyone who makes it all the way to the end.
Absolutely.
These episodes are fun to make. We enjoy watching these movies, and if there's anything that you guys want us to watch, feel free to let us know.
All of those socials and everything are linked in the description, by the way. So, if you're watching on a podcast platform, you want to write a review, That's super helpful for us. If you want to like and subscribe on YouTube, also helpful for us. Seriously, though, for the people who are watching and listening, thank you so much.
Yes.
Our audience is definitely very small, but it's meaningful that we have at least a handful of people who actually want to listen to us talk about this stuff. So that's great.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone. And yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed King Kong as much as we did.
Yeah. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about one of our favorite movies. We're going to take a little bit of a break from current stuff. So we're going to embrace the rewind part of our name, as Niles suggested to me earlier this week. So not sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure it out. And then
we'll find one of our favorite movies.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be a good time. All right. Stay safe, everybody. Get a vaccine shot at your earliest opportunity.
Yes.
We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.
Bye.